Welcome to the Flyers Nitty Gritty Podcast, getting gritty with it with your hosts, Yariv Wallach, Jamie Baskow, missing another episode. It's you snooze, you lose. Just kidding. Jamie's just been busy with other stuff. He's on another podcast today and obviously running the site. So I got my co-stars here for the evening, returning guest and star athlete, Joe Borek. How you doing, Joe? Welcome back.
Doing well. How you doing, Yariv? I know it's been a good playoffs. It finished out with the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup. It was a surreal moment for a team that was not ours to win the Stanley Cup because I was just so proud of the league and how well they put it together that it was still kind of an emotional ending for me for not having my team win a Stanley Cup. Like, it was a very weird moment for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a nice perspective there for everybody, especially in times like these. And a new guest, but excited to have him on, SteelFlyers. Steel, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Man, how you guys doing? What an honor. What a privilege. Can't even begin to tell you how great this is to be here. Feels so awesome to be here. It's great to be included in on this. Man, I have to agree with Joe. I really was proud of Tampa Bay for winning and really proud for Dallas for making it as far as they did, and also for the NHL and what the NHL was able to do in that 7-week period and be able to produce a Stanley Cup champion. And hats off to the NHL and hats off to Flyers Nitty Gritty and getting gritty with it, man. How about that? Because like I got to show you now. Oh, yeah.
Looking pretty good there.
Just got the swag.
Probably. Thanks for pointing that out, Steel. We never really bring this stuff up, and we definitely should more often. We do have a team store now, Teespring. It's going to be in all of our articles. It's on our website. It's in our social media. But like that awesome hoodie that Steel is wearing there, yeah, you can get one of those and other variations of that on our team store at Steel. Thanks for pointing that out. And
yeah, man.
Loving that you're supporting the team. Thank you so much for wearing that.
You got it.
Well, excited to have you guys on. I think this is actually, I've had an episode called Calm Before the Storm, but I feel like this kind of really is it. And it's weird because we'll start it off with our first topic, but it kind of is predicated with this kind of odd, ominous event, which nobody saw coming. Again, I think is a clear indication of the kind of the virus era here, lack of communication. With players and whatnot. So nobody saw this coming. Matt Niskanen announces his retirement from the NHL today. A very surprise move. At 33 years old, he retires in maybe his third best season in the NHL, where he played a humongous role for the Flyers, eating up a ton of minutes, being on a 40-point pace. Didn't finish with 40 points, 33 points, but obviously it was 68 games without a full season. Just a really strong season for a player I was really excited about, and I thought at least we'd have it from this year. But yeah, Matt Niskanen retires. A hell of a career and a hell of a way to go out. Steel, I'll open up to you since it's your first time on the show. What do you think? What do you think about Matt Niskanen?
Thank you, sir, for your service. Appreciate it. Gonna miss you, man. The production we're gonna miss. The leadership in the room we're gonna miss. We're gonna miss that kind of personality that we really needed, and I think we're gonna miss that. But I will say this: we didn't know, but apparently Mr. Fletcher knew.
Of course.
And so they were talking about this for weeks before, so they knew about what was going on, right? So we were the only ones that didn't know. So that really just kind of opens the floodgates pretty much for all the talk and all the speculation that everything's been swirling around. That pretty much opens the floodgates. I am grateful for what Niskanen did. I really liked his game. I thought he was an upgrade from Gudis, but
undoubtedly.
Okay, right. So, but if he wants to go at 33, especially after what happened, especially with him being away from his family, he has kids, the whole 9 yards, and he's already got a ring, he's already got his name on the cup. Know what I mean? What else does he have to prove? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, thank you very much. We would love to still have you, but if you're going to go, man, cool. Appreciate you riding off on the sunset with the Flyers.
I mean, it's a little surprising. He walked away from $5.75 million. I mean, even after escrow and taxes and all that, it's obviously not that number.
2 years, too, because we signed him for 3 years, right?
No. He had 1 year left on this contract.
Oh, 1 year. Okay.
And then actually, after that, I was predicting the Flyers potentially would re-sign him. But Joe,
I thought they would have too.
Yeah, Joe. Let's hear your thoughts before we move on.
I was surprised he retired before the end of his contract. Could I have been as surprised if he called it quits after next year? Not as much, because you saw he seemed to be at the point of his career where anytime he had an interview, he was very content with just talking about everyone else. Where it's like, I'm helping this guy, like Provorov's a beast, like I have to keep up with him as an old timer, like all those types of jokes where it seemed like you were kind of hinting at, I know I'm getting towards the end, like I'm kind of wrapping this thing up here. So I thought that would be at the end of his contract, but I think he probably saw where the team was at, and he might be at peace with what he's done. I mean, the guy had. It's unfortunate because he would have hit 1,000 games if he came back for this year, because he was at 949. But I think he was probably just at peace with what he's done in his career. He's had a great career. I mean, he's had a ridiculous over 300 points in his career, which is ridiculous for a defenseman. And he's just been a great player. He's tried a career, so hats off to him and congratulations to him for a good career. But as Steele said, they obviously knew about this because they locked up Friedman early. Then they got Braun to a pretty good contract, having a solid veteran right-handed defenseman, because we know the righty defensemen are harder to come by nowadays. Is pretty good
Don't mean to cut you off there, Joe, but it's a good point, right? Because Braun's contract showed up right after the Niskanen, right?
Like
That's not coincidence.
Yeah, like within about, less tan an hour maybe, or something stupid.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I have confidence in Mark Friedman stepping up to fill a role too, because he's just a no-nonsense, takes what's given to him type of player, where whoever's also an Eagles fan, he's kind of like someone like that receiver we picked up off the scrap heap last year, Greg Ward, who's just going to be like, just give me the ball and I'm going to catch the damn thing. Where he's a guy that's like, just pass me the puck, I'm not going to overcomplicate it, I'm just going to get it up to the forward, or I'm going to just chip this up to somebody so someone can get it. Like, he's a guy that just keeps it simple. And he really, I think, having Niskanen on the team helps someone like him, too, because he kind of has a combination of Braun playing it simple, keep it simple, stupid game, combined with the Niskanen poor man's Niski game, because he moves quicker on his skates than Braun, and he passes the puck well, and has that good chip pass like Niskanen has, too. So I think would be a pretty good guy to look for next year to take this hole that we have here, especially because right-handed defensemen that can move the puck, you want to have more right-handers in your lineup too to balance it out. I think that also really helps them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and I love the comparison of Friedman to Niskanen, because it really is that type of player. And there's other players like this of varying caliber, like a Duncan Keith. These are guys that are not traditionally like offensive defensemen, right? They have an offensive upside to him. Like Matt Niskanen, he wasn't a flashy offensive player, right? Everything he did was really simple. Even Chris Pronger in a lot of ways played that way.
Very defensively responsible.
Right, but also had the ability to put up points making simple plays.
Could jump in.
Right, but even just, a big shot or just one simple breakout pass, right? Nothing even that fancy. Go ahead, Steele. Did you want to say something?
No. I'm just agreeing with everything you're saying. I mean, it's just, I think he's going to be missed. There's going to be a hole. But I like with what Professor Joe said, man. I think that we have guys on the team that can potentially fill that hole and potentially make that Niskanen retirement not hurt so much.
So that is the question here, right? And I really like what you said, both of you, right? Joe, you brought this up, that Friedman is a guy who obviously, I think we all see, Fletcher said it publicly today. I don't think it's a question. He's obviously even today an NHL player. It's just of carrying varying capabilities and, just his readiness for the NHL. But he's ready. He's going to get the opportunity. But is he a 22-minute night guy? Probably not, right? Not stepping in.
No.
Now, what we do have, we have some young options there, right? We have a Ghost in his prior career, played those type of minutes. Are they going to try him there? His recent history would say no. So, we can talk about that a little bit later of options with that. But we have Ghost. We have Phil Myers, who ideally is the perfect top pairing defenseman. He's just maybe a little, young in the tooth, maybe not ready to play 22 minutes a night. But, somebody who you ideally, just on paper, would look great next to Provorov.
Yeah.
And then you have Sanheim, and he has been the most reliable. And Joe, I'm going to open up to you here in a second. He's been the most reliable. He's played the biggest minutes so far. He's been the number 3 behind Niskanen this year. There's obviously more options than that. But what do you guys think? Without going to free agency, we can talk about trades, but not just free agency, not just go out and sign a guy. What's the closest option that you guys see that to fill in that void? Joe, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, well, Myers and Sanheim have looked very good in the playoffs. People remember recency the most, but in the regular season they looked great. In the playoffs, that line struggled a bit. And Myers has logged over 18 to 22 minutes at a time. So my thinking is if you could keep it lefty-righty with Provorov, that just suits the best. And I know you said that, I believe, you're even in a video a couple weeks back. Where that just makes the most sense to me compared to making it lefty up there. Because I think a guy, if you want to make it lefty, if you really want to try him that high in his first year, you could try to maybe see how good Zamula is coming right into the league, because we do know how freakishly good this dude's supposed to be. So if you want to, because the other side of moving, if you want to move Sanheim and Myers, you have to debate that too, because that was one of the higher graded defensive lines on your team. So it's not like you should just do that in the snap of a finger. Be like, oh, well, let's move one of these two guys up with because that might affect your overall defense, because that pairing played well together. So you might try to just work around it. I don't want to see Braun on the first line, so maybe you would put Friedman on line 1 and give him a shot at the get-go, or you would go lefty with Zamula, because we know Morin, as they said, is going to get a lot of AHL time before you ever really see him up in the NHL. So that would be my line of thinking with guys on the team, because you're not going to put Hag up on the first line.
No.
Steel, I'll let you go. Just go right into it.
Yeah, no, because I think one of the things we have to talk about for sure, though, is that Myers needs to be re-signed if he's going to fit into this equation. And I would like for him to fit into this equation, because that's who I would like to see slot in. I like the idea of Friedman, and I like the idea of Myers. I like the idea of Haig, and I like the idea of Ghost. I mean, look, he's signed. He's trying to make a resurgence. Fletcher came out and said in his press conference that, it seems like Ghost is going to get a shot to try to come and be part of the team. Hey, what? He's already being paid. What? Now, unless he does something at the trade or, during the draft or during free agency, because we don't have to move anybody now. So our options just suddenly became, oh, well, that would be nice. Let's do that. The pressure just went away now. You know what I mean? So we don't have to move anybody to free up space. We now suddenly have, $7.8 million now? But now we do have to sign Patrick and we have to sign Myers.
I think it's I think it's a little over 8 from what I saw Jamie tweet. But
let me double check. I'll check Cap Friendly right now.
Yeah, but I thought it was 7.8 or something like that, and I think it's not unreasonable to get Myers in at the same kind of money that maybe 1.5 or 1.75 or something like that. Maybe I don't. I like what we got. Let's roll with that.
Yeah, I feel like 1.75 is more if you get him for 1 year, because I don't think if you get him to stay for multiple years, he's going to take
Right.
You're
AAV.
talking
Right.
about was that
Myers.
that you're
Yeah,
Yeah.
Myers.
It's gonna take a little more than that. I
Yeah.
agree. Maybe a 1 year. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say like a 1 year, you can usually get somebody sometimes lower because they know you're probably going to end up paying them on the back end because they have confidence you would expect in themselves to keep growing. So, but I think if you want to get them for a Sanheim deal, it's going to be like somewhere in the twos for 2 years. If you want to get them for longer than Sanheim, that's when it'll probably be mid twos to high 2 million range. If you want to get them for like a 3 to 4 year already.
I think you're going to get a little bit of a discount because of the current economic situation, but without that, I would totally 100% agree with what you said, Joe. I just think the Flyers have a little bit of leverage in this case because the financial stability that Comcast brings. I mean, there aren't a lot of – we're seeing good teams selling players right now. And I do want to make this clear, and this is a little off topic, but I think the same type of deal that we used to get Niskanen over here, I think we're going to be looking for another one of those. So a team that's in cap trouble, they got to get rid of a veteran defenseman. We have cap space. We'll take him. You know what I mean? Like he was too good. Cap. Right. And we either move, and that's where maybe a guy like Ghost does get moved. I'm a big fan of second chances. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows I would have already played Ghost. I would have been playing him a while ago, and I would have been working, but I would have also used him differently than AV as well. I wouldn't have used him in the same way. I wouldn't have used him the same way on the power play. I would have leveraged him in certain situations rather than knowing, like I put him in situations where he doesn't, I don't want to say excel, but I would highlight the element of his game. Like I would have shifted him over for the shot where where Jake Voracek usually hangs out. That would have been the spot I would keep for Ghost. Like I'd be like, okay,
the quarterback.
Right, exactly. Quarterback, let him be the opposite of Giroux. I'd be highlighting his offensive game and trying to cover up for his defensive elements. Though I think it's fair what AV did. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. It's just not how I would make decisions. So I'm open for that. Having said that, I have not seen them behave in a way that I believe Ghost is staying. I want Ghost to stay. I love Ghost. I love the idea of them doing that. If Niskanen retired does change that in their mind, great. But then you actually have to play him. Even through the struggles, and if he has a bad game, you're not benching him. Otherwise, this is just a waste of time. Yep. And that's where I'm kind of at it with the Flyers. So if they want to keep that right, I don't think there's anybody ready outside of Braun to play that many minutes. Braun is not good enough to play a top pairing role at this point in his career. So that's why I see Myers as the only default, and that's why I would separate them, Joe. And I would assume, normally I agree with you, but the offseason, you have time to work that in. Having said that, it might not work, and you already know that pairing does work. So that's where I believe the Flyers probably will look for an external source in this case, and maybe somebody actually that we have to give something up to get. But is that such a bad thing? I mean, especially if he's a good player. I mean, there are going to be teams selling. I mean, why is Oliver Ekman-Larsson available? Why is Darcy Kempfer available? Why is Grabner getting bought out? You know, it's like they're trying to save pennies on the dollar because of what happened with the economy. At least that's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Especially with the cap too, because the cap's not going to be going anywhere. They came flat out and said it's not going anywhere for the next 2 years. And then the third year, it's only going to be based off of what the financials were for the last 2 seasons during the playoffs or whatever. So, I mean, it's like then the cap isn't going anywhere for 2 years. So you got to be thinking 3 years ahead instead of 1. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think things are happening the way they're happening, and that's why I think things are going to be structured the way they are going to be structured because of that very reason.
Yeah, you see teams taking contracts that way. Sorry, Joe.
I was going to say, no, you're good. I was going to say, I think most teams, if you have a good general manager, ideally usually think 3 to 5 years ahead. Otherwise, your team's going to be in pretty deep crap a couple years down the line.
Everybody but Mike Milbury, right?
Yeah. If you literally just thinking years at a time, because you're going to be one of those GMs that have no assets, you're probably.
But you know what I mean, though. Do you know what I mean?
I think he meant financially the stagnation over the next 3 years. But I believe
No.
it's.
Yeah, I agree. I also was hoping someone brought up Mike Milbury when I brought that up. Yeah, that guy.
There you go.
Said it not
Yeah,
that.
right.
But we'll get to this with free agency later because it's going to be interesting. You brought up, I agree with trading for another veteran defenseman potentially, but there's also a lot of good guys in the free agency that could slot in very well.
We'll get to that.
That we'll get to later. So it'll be interesting what the Flyers decide to do because there's many choices they can make with their roster this offseason.
Yeah. All good points. And I think the interesting thing though is how big of an impact Matt Niskanen made in 1 year. And I honestly really felt like when he was gone, I was like, oh, it's not like this, like, oh man, we're screwed, and that's the luxury, and it shows really where the Flyers are today. That we're still a competitive team, but he was a real big stabilizing force. I was actually listening to Hockey Guy prior to this, and he did a couple specials on Niskanen, right? Because Niskanen's resume is actually pretty impressive. I mean, for a defensive defenseman, for a two-way defenseman, the guy has a lot of success. He brought a lot of great things to the game. He's almost like a poor man's Provorov in a way, right? Like Provorov does everything that Niskanen does to like a higher clip. He's just younger. But again, we need guys like that. And right now, I think we have a big hole. And could a young guy step up and take it? I'd love to see that. I prefer that. History shows that GMs aren't really necessarily going to leave it up to that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You want to say one more thing before we move on?
No, I just agree with you because I don't think you're going to be able to see a young guy, especially on this Flyers team, is going to be handed that kind of responsibility right off.
Not day one. Maybe like halfway.
So. Right.
Yeah. Even Myers. You're not getting top pairing.
We're gonna have to bring somebody in. It's just gonna have to happen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so, but it depends what you get offered and what people offer you, because it seems like Fletcher has no interest in giving up a lot of our prospects from a lot of the quotes he said already. So
shouldn't.
You're only going to get guys that you can
Agreed.
get similar to a Niskanen-esque trade where you're like, well, we don't really see the need for this player anymore. We need a player with these types of assets more than these type of assets. So let's move this guy for this guy.
Or they just can't afford to pay him because they're up against the wall, right? And they're like, well, we don't want to move him, but we'll. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to trade Robert Haig. I'm just throwing this out as an example, right? Or even Mark Friedman. And sorry, Freeds, don't necessarily want to trade you, but here's an opportunity where a team goes, hey, we have a top 4 defenseman who's a veteran, like an Alec Martinez, a guy like that who's a top 4 guy. Right, yeah, and they go, okay, give us Mark Friedman and a 3rd-round pick for like a top 3 guy.
Okay,
right, exactly. That might be the offer, and then they're like, well, we save $5 million in cap space. We got this good young defenseman locked up. We get another pick to potentially get another D-man, and that's how you work a deal, and maybe that is what's available. This has got to be a big curveball, but Fletcher did say he was looking for defensive depth. And I remember everybody was kind of like, well, what kind of deal? We're like stocked. Then when Matt Niskanen leaves, all of a sudden you're like, all right.
Exactly what he just said just went, oh, yeah, I guess that's what he meant.
So look, we talked about D. Let's talk about goaltending for a second here. So Brian Elliott gets re-signed, a 1-year, $1.5 million, a very modest contract, actually an excellent cap hit for a backup goaltender. And if he plays the way he played for majority of last season, I would say nice. Yeah, right. Majority of last season, that's actually a fantastic deal. It's a situation where we were up against the cap. It saves us a bunch of money. He's reliable. Could the Flyers even bring in another goaltender on top of Lyon and Ustimenko? I could see it possible. Maybe even at some point during the season. But with the cap space open, now it's possible. And you see what you have in Lyon, you see what you have in Ustimenko. You don't have to have that solved. You have enough good goaltenders and the opportunity to bring in like another guy if you really need to. $1.5 million is really great. I think we're in a really good situation. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Steel, you go first on this one.
Well, I'll tell you what. We just saw what Lehner is getting. So we pretty much see what the level of a goalie is going to be now, right? What he got 5 years,
Looking it up right now, right? He got a really modest contract, though.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's going to be where I think the kind of goalie the type of goalie that where that's what we're going to have to be looking for. Maybe Carter Hart to kind of slot into that, and I don't think we're going to be able to. Yeah, that's what I thought.
5 year, $25 million. So that's exactly five. That's easy math right there. Thank you, Vegas.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I was talking about those contracts, is that they're going to come under, just like a Braun at 1.8 million, where normally he maybe would have got 2.2 over 2 years. Like, I was surprised it's sub 2 million.
Yeah, especially for Elliott, you know what I mean, to come back and play again, you know. And I know there was some talk about looking for an upgrade in goal, and we at the time we didn't have the capability because we didn't have the money. Now it's like we have the money, so maybe, you know, hey, we might actually have some leverage now come during the draft where we might be able to package, say, a Elliott and a Lion with somebody. I'm just throwing the bones. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing it out there. You know what I mean?
I mean, we might look for a more long-term backup at some point. I don't know if the Flyers necessarily see Lion as that guy. Joe,
yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I really don't. I really kind of have an issue with them signing Lion. I mean, I understand that he came back and played with won a couple games there for us there for a little bit, but I just wasn't really all that excited about the Lion re-signing. I liked better the Elliott re-signing because Carter Hart was having him, and he played really well. He stepped in right when we needed him to, when Carter Hart was down and not able to win those road games, and Moose came in and was able to take care of business. You know, and that's exactly what you pay those backup goalies to do. So,
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, I'm good with Elliott, but hey, if we can get an upgrade long term, if at some point maybe during the trade deadline or maybe even during free agency, or who knows, maybe during the draft, we don't know what Fletcher's got rolling. You know what I mean?
True. Joe, what do you think?
I think we got Els at a very good value. He's a great mentor to Hart. Everybody talks about, including both of them, how great their relationship is. So I think that's a very good thing to keep him around. I never am going to mind re-signing anybody for the minimum, which is what Lion got. So, I mean, it's not going to hurt your cap in any way, shape, or form because you signed him for the minimum. And he's an okay, solid. This is the best year he had because he stepped up for you against, I almost said Calgary, but Colorado. He's way better than Calgary. So that's way more impressive than stepping up against Calgary. So I think he has a chance to be a backup. By backup, I mean like an actual backup, not a 1A, 1B. I'm not confident he can be that yet, but an NHL backup, like a guy that plays 20 to 27 games, somewhere in that range, because they have a logger of a starter that plays a lot of games. I think he could be a backup, but he's not necessarily to Elliott's level yet, where if your goalie gets injured, he's kind of picked it up for a couple teams over his career for 30-some games in a row and kind of carried them on their back. I would have to see more to be fully confident in Lion doing that, but I'm confident in him being a backup if injuries were to prevail next year. And then Ustamenko, I think, needs minor league time in the AHL, but he looked really good in Reading. So I do like our goalie depth. What's very unfortunate is Ursan got injured in a house accident, whatever the hell that means, overseas. So
either that or he fell off a ladder or something.
So he came back. So it seemed like from following like Russ and some other people, he was not too many years or so from coming over, but that might be delayed now because you don't know what the heck's even going to go on with how he's able to come back and all that stuff. So we pray and hope he'll be okay. But we've drafted a lot of goalies. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we pick one in later rounds this year because it seems like the Flyers, rightfully so, like gathering depth finally. but like gathering depth since Hextall came in and now continuing at the goaltender position and the defensive position. So I do like to see that because we know those are the two main positions you need to have a winning team that can get over the hump and win a Stanley Cup. So
yeah, all great points, and I want to make a couple additions there. So the first thing about Lyon, so he's an interesting story, but I want to point out because he's 27 years old, and I think we get used to 27-year-old players and the expectations are with like defensemen and forwards and what we expect from them. But if you look at most goaltenders in the NHL, they really don't make the NHL until they're like 27 years old. Like the fact that like Carter Hart is a starter or even Ustimenko is flying up, like that's why they're starters. And I agree with you. I think Lyon is on the path of being an NHL backup. I don't see him being more than that. Not a Brian Elliott. I was hoping he would be maybe a 1B guy. I think that's maybe where Ustimenko's going. Maybe 1B. Maybe he will be a full-time starter. We'll see. You know, I mean, he has a lot of skill, so we'll see. But it's so difficult. So I think that age, he's right where he needs to be. Right, AHL starter, can shift and play some NHL games. And I think the price the Flyers got for him was kind of like a no-brainer to keep him around. He's also super likable and very smart, like intelligence. He seems like the type of guy you might actually hire after his career. Like the Flyers literally would be like, can you be a scout for us? Can you be like a goalie coach? Because, I mean, his brain moves at a really high level from what I understand. And that kind of stuff matters. And I think overall this year, the Flyers have a lot of depth, okay? And even one guy that nobody brings up, I brought him up on the last podcast, though, but Ivan Fedotov from the KHL. Now, that's not a guy I expect to be here anytime soon, but he is ours, and right now he is turning into a legit goaltender in the KHL, and he's, 6'7"? He's putting up some pretty nice numbers up there. So that's another guy, too, that, like, just out of the woodwork, could he be pulled over here in a few years? And I'm going to name up one more Russian, and I'm going to open up to you guys because I brought this up a few times already, and I've asked people this question, and everybody says no, and I think that's silly. But Askarov, I believe Askarov, right, the goaltender, the top goaltender available in this draft, slated to be a franchise caliber goaltender, the best goaltender to come around in quite a bit, and I hear that quite a bit, right? We heard that with Spencer Knight. We hear that with Ilya Samsonov, right? We didn't hear that with Hart for some reason, but now we hear it with Hart, right? But we have another one available in this draft, right? He's ranked right outside the top 10 because that's really high for a goalie nowadays. Having said that, I expect him to drop. I expect all goalies to drop in the draft, and historically so far they have. If he ends up available at 23, do you draft him? He's a franchise caliber goaltender.
Say it. Come on, say it.
I mean, you would have two franchise caliber goalies. One of them would be trade bait at a certain point. Yeah, I'm not really the right person to ask on this because I'm a very big goaltender person. But,
no, you're the perfect person to ask this question to.
I like this question.
Probably lean yes, but at the same time, what I said on other podcasts, if other guys that I did not expect to fall to me as, especially now when Niskanen retired as a defenseman or as a forward, where I'm like, holy crap, how the hell is this guy here? I might take them too because I just know I need that position more. But it's a hard pass once you get all the way down to that point in the draft. I would just be pretty shocked if he gets all the way down to that point in the draft because to get to 23, he has to get past some teams that
need
blatantly, like pretty
Carolina.
Blatantly. Yeah, he also I wouldn't be the highest. Like Carolina needs a goalie. Obviously, Jersey could draft him with their 18th overall pick potentially. Calgary could draft him, or Jersey could draft him.
Jersey's got Blackwood.
Jersey does have Blackwood, but I mean we have
a lot of picks.
Yeah, so they have a lot of picks, and we have
don't tell the Devils fans.
They're convinced that Blackwood is as good as Hart, so don't tell them.
Yeah. Shh. And then we also have Columbus, who we don't know if they're fully set in stone on their two young guys. So that would be an interesting thing if they decide to take Askarov, because then they have good goalie depth there. if he falls, it will be interesting. I think I would still. I mean, I might take him because I'm biased, but I still think I would lean if forwards or defense fall because of necessity. Get one of them.
Steele, real quick before I let you talk, you got to consider the trade value though of something like that, right? If he does,
agreed.
I agree. He probably won't drop to us, but if he does, you can go get yourself a top pairing defenseman. Maybe not that year, but maybe next year. If he puts up those numbers 2 years in a row, or if people see that he's legit, I mean, the cost for him would skyrocket. You could use that move into the top 5 the next year. Steele, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, it would be a tantalizing, wonderful, horrible problem to have.
Right,
if we had 2 like number 1 goalies like that. Yeah, you know what I mean? And imagine what that would do to the psyche of Carter Hart if we brought somebody in there like that. He would just be like, all right, and then he would just be able to just continue to roll. And nothing has phased him. So I'll tell you what, if like say Jarvis was available at 23, if we say trade up, but there may be other players I think that might be available that I would much rather I think have than that goalie, because I like Fedorov or that Fedorov guy, whatever. Fedotov. Yeah. Me and Lance talked about him, Lance Green, because he did a story about. And I tell you what, I really like what he's bringing to the game. He's got size. He's got really. I just really think he could be potentially that guy that could be called in. That I think he might even be proved to be better than Lyon. You know what I mean? It just, I understand and I agree. It does take goalies a little bit of extra time to get to that point where they're like, all right, we all know and see that we have a once-in-a-generation goalie in Hart.
Let me use an example. Anton Khudobin, there's one guy. And if you look at his numbers, they were always good when he played. So I'm not taking away, but he's obviously a very good backup or a 1B situation. But that's a guy who you didn't even hear his name until he was in his late 20s.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly right. Goalies take that little bit of extra time to find their game and get to that point where they're, you know what I mean? And I agree 100%. I would just much rather have the Russian kid. I look, if we could take him.
He would want money. Plays like KHL. He gets paid.
Okay. But if he proves to be better than Lyon, or if he proves to eventually be that 1A that can come in and take over for Elliott,
1B.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Whatever, I'm okay with that. Bring that on.
Checkmonic 2.0.
Oh gosh, can we get a cranium carom?
Yeah. I would love to see Fedotov eventually come over. I just don't mention him all the time because I'm not sure if it's as likely he's going to eventually come over because of what Yariv said. You get paid in the KHL, and the Flyers have a lot of goalie depth.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's the most incentivized to come over into our system.
Now that we signed Lyon.
Well, yeah, he's not going to come over now. I'm talking about like whenever you would want to incentivize, like if that's after this year or after next year. Whenever you want to try to incentivize him.
He's the guy we could maybe move his rights in the future for a pick. You know what I mean? Like, if he actually turns out to be something, you end up trading for a third, second-round pick. You took him in the 7th round. That's why I was talking about Askarov, right? The goaltenders, they're an investment. So even if you take one in the 2nd or 3rd round and you develop him into a starter, I mean, how many of these guys have moved around the league, ended up in another team, and then became that team's starter, right? It happens so often. So they have value. They're something teams are willing to be patient with, as opposed to like a left-wing goal scorer. You really, if you're not a goal scorer by the time you're like 24, like nobody cares.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All on Matt Reed.
Right. Well, hey, Matt Reed
he's a skater and he played hard.
I mean, he put up some really good numbers for a two-way player. I'm a big Matt Reed fan. He just died off, later a lot quicker than I expected.
Surgery or 2 knee surgeries. I think he got 2 knee surgeries. Didn't he?
Yeah.
Then that's probably what did it.
And then the ankle there at the end is what really knocked him.
He slowed down considerably because he was very fast.
Yeah.
I loved Matt Reed, especially his first 2 years, 3 years.
Me too.
Yeah, I always loved those aggressive type just speedsters. That's why I always
Same.
liked Scotty. That's why I liked Scotty back in the
Upshaw.
day. Well,
Yeah, oh yeah, I liked him too. Yeah.
Yep, I totally agree. Actually, Simone Gagne is my favorite player. He wasn't aggressive, but I loved like just the speed, the straight drive, the shooting, and then the attention to defense, attention to detail defensively. Like those are my type of play. Like a Marion Hossa. Like I love those guys.
Another Simone Gagne. Oh man,
that's what I think Joel Farabee is, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping he can end up being more of a goal scorer.
That's a good pool.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that comparison.
I don't think he has the same speed that Gagne has, but he has other skills that got like he's a little more wiry and a little more aggressive. Yeah, but he has a really good shot, a sneaky shot. Actually, if you listen to what Hextall said about him, he would sit there, he's like obsessing over him. He's like he has like the most amazing hands. Like you have no idea if he's gonna shoot. I remember watching Hextall.
He's getting a little precious on us.
I'm telling you, I do not think Ron Hextall thought he was getting Joel Farabee. I think he walked up there like, oh my god, like
Joel's available. Oh my god.
Well, from what I understand about that U.S. development program, and this is why I tout Cam York so highly, is that program was so special that literally if you got any one of those guys, it's like getting a player from the 2003 draft. You're like, just give me one of them. That you're probably good. You're probably getting a star player, regardless of who, Zegras, any of them. They're probably all going to be good players in the NHL, from good to great. So I think getting Joel Farabee is like he might have been the most balanced player of Wallstrom and Hughes. And this is a guy, and being balanced is what helps you in the NHL a little bit more, where you can see he's had the best early success of the three of them to some degree. Hughes has struggled, right, for good reason, and I still believe he has the highest ceiling. But for reasons like that, you see some of that in there. I just think Joel Farabee has a potential to be a top line player in the NHL, for sure. But we'll see. All right. So we do have a couple re-signings. We mentioned them earlier. We have Phil Myers, who's still up there. We kind of talked about his money. Let's talk about that for a second, and let's talk about Patrick together here. So we have Patrick, who has not played a game in a substantial amount of time. I think a lot of people are guessing kind of maybe a 1-year deal, a bridge deal, something under the circumstances, considering he's kind of up in the air. He's still an RFA and will be an RFA even after a bridge deal. So the Flyers would feel comfortable giving him maybe $1 million, $1.5 million, assuming he's coming back and you can put him in LTIR. And then there's the other scenario where maybe they give him a 3-for-3 like they give Lindblom, but maybe a little riskier since the head injury. We don't know. Not a lot of info on Patrick at this point. But let's talk about Myers. Same thing. We talked about what his numbers would be. Do you guys see them getting locked up, within the next few days here? Joe, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, I would see them prioritizing Myers, obviously, because he's a guy that is going to be ready to play and is a focal point of your defense. And as we stated before, is a guy that you picked up as a key right-handed defenseman. I also think a key point to bring up with him is we have guys that seem to be taking discounts because they like the culture we have with our team. Well, I would think a guy that's an undrafted free agent that the team that gave him a chance would be more prone to take a discount than most other people. So that might be helpful in terms of negotiating with him because you're the team that literally gave him a chance out of him not even being drafted originally. So I feel like that should help you in negotiations somewhat when you're trying to save money. In terms of Patrick, I think it's going to be a 1 year. Let's see what happens. Hopefully you can come back kind of deal. I know he played in that scrimmage, but that was a mess around scrimmage, so that's not really going to show you. Like, good for him that he was able to play in a scrimmage. Congratulations to him, but that's not the biggest step to play in the NHL, is the best way to put that. So I would sign him for a 1 year deal, see what happens this year, because like you said, you're still going to have him protected after that year, and you see where you go from there.
Here's the one thing I'll add there, though I don't disagree with anything you said, Joe. After this Niskanen thing, we should assume that we don't know anything that's going on with Patrick. That they have.
Right.
That's the one thing I've been thinking about the past 24 hours is like, maybe we have no idea what's going on with Nolan Patrick, quite frankly, to some degree. Sorry, Steel, go ahead.
No. I'm that's where I'm going to go with that. I definitely feel that Myers is definitely a priority. He should be part of the team. We even touched on it earlier that we thought he could be part of the rotation as part of our D, and we even picked out some pairings that we thought he would be great with. So I have no problems with bringing Myers on. I have no problems with giving him whatever he's, whatever the $2 million or whatever he's going to need for his 3 years or whatever. I got no problems with that. However, I have an issue with Patrick. Look, I've been praying for the guy. I really would hate to see anything bad happen or anything along those lines. I don't feel he's worth the risk. If the doctors come out and tell me and say specifically that Nolan Patrick is okay to play, he's able to get hit, he's able to do whatever, then okay, then I give him the 1 year show me deal and whatever. If the doctors come up and say, look, we don't know, he could be good in a couple weeks, he could be good in a couple months, then I'm sorry. I don't think it's worth the risk. It's not worth putting that $1.5 million or whatever it is to get him out there on the LTR and have him sit for another year. You know what I mean? I just have a hard time with that. I have a hard time with paying players to sit.
Yeah, you do have to remember, though, if you sign somebody for one, I never consider, unless if you're giving someone a 1 year, like $7 million contract to bring them into your organization,
Obviously.
much of a risk for a 1 year deal.
Yeah, obviously.
Where also, if you put them on the long-term IR, correct me if I'm wrong, Yariv, but I feel like even if it's a 1 year deal, you still don't get a cap hit for that, do you?
Correct. No.
Correct.
So, yeah, so it's still, really, that would mitigate the risk.
You still pay.
You still
Right.
pay, but he's hit on your cap, so you could sign, if he doesn't come back, and somebody that's a decent center free agent, just kind of because of how quick this offseason turns around, is still out there in the wind when the season starts, you could pick up probably a okay fourth line center and then maybe put Loss as center or something. Like, you would have movable things there, because someone like, if Koivu wants to keep playing, could still potentially, if he debates for a while, be sitting there because he might debate for a while and then no one might sign him, or also there's other better options at center. So that's just one name potentially. If you need to sign somebody late, you could try to do. Yeah.
I would want Koivu. I actually think those are going to be the Flyers' biggest focus. Fourth line center, somebody who's better than Thompson and
I hope it's
Grant. Yeah, but somebody who can play the third line. If we have a slew of other young guys who might take it. I'm not changing my tone on Nolan Patrick, regardless of anything that has happened. I'm typically the guy. I pretty much stay the course. I had a vision in my head about Nolan Patrick. I still don't see that vision disappearing. So my guess right now, I would give him 3 years. I would try to lock him up as cheap as I possibly could and try to take advantage of it. And I would try to get him at 3 years at sub $3 million. If I can get him for $1 million a year for 3 years, I would try that. He's a second overall pick. I think it's a risk to not invest in him, honestly, and try to get him back. This was what I was saying is, I think what we tend to do, and I do the same thing that everybody else does, so I'm not excluding myself here, but what the human brain tends to do is when we have mystery, we assume the worst, right? And we don't have any info on Nolan Patrick. And we have a history of Eric Lindros, of Keith Primo, of Chris Pronger, and I'm sure I can find
Perrier.
There you go. And we've watched players collapse to head injuries. So we know how serious it is. It's hit our team several times. We're pretty sensitive to it. So my attitude is, like, until I'm told that he can't play, I'm investing in him. That's literally my brain. So that's where I'm at. And I think if he does come back, I think he's a humongous asset and changes the course of this team. So I think I think it's a must investment from that aspect.
I so agree with you, but it's exactly what you said. Until we hear from a medical professional
No, Fletcher.
Well,
No,
right, yeah.
We're never
Until
gonna
Fletcher
find out.
hears, right. Until Fletcher hears that Patrick is okay to play, then I'm with you. Then yes, sign him because he is a game changer. He
enough.
does have the skill. He could be that 3C. He's exactly what we need. There it is. It's already on the team.
Granted, 3 years, if you can get someone for 3 years, one something, that's like a Kelly Yorncroak type contract. So, like you're gonna have to produce. You're gonna have to produce just to the level of Calais, who's a good player. Don't get me wrong, a very good bottom six, but Patrick's supposed to be more than that. So if you can produce to the level of Yorncroak, then you're basic.
He's pert near showed it.
I think that's a dream boat. Thing.
Well, the reason the reason I said that is I'm using the Samuel Morin contract as an example. Like, not a great example in this case. I do agree with you. I'm like kind of laughing, right, while I say that. Maybe I can get 2 years though. But the reason I say that is because look at the discount we got on Lindblom, right? Because of the risk to his health. We know he's going to be a great player still. We got him at a discount. And then you look at Patrick, right? Morin had those serious injuries. He signed for $700K for 3 years. Even Morin, as a bare minimum, shouldn't be making $700K. He should be making $1 million. He should already be an NHL player, right? But because of his injuries, he hasn't really had the opportunity to do that. So you get him for 3 years because he needs to play, right? So you're paying his insurance, right? You're paying his life. You're still making him a millionaire. So that's kind of where, like, if I'm a boss, that's the argument I'm making. But to your point, Joe, I think Nolan Patrick is far too talented to accept that kind of contract, and I think he'll go for the 1 year deal, maybe 2 year deal, but not at that kind of money. Lindblom still got $3 million, so it's not.
Yeah, he's not going to get that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he had a huge year before the cancer too.
Right. And I think we all agree that I think we all agree pretty much that if Patrick is clear to play, that we would welcome him with open arms.
Yeah. If one of these guys we talked about gets $3 million, it's going to be Myers, because Myers would probably get a longer. They might just say, "We have faith in you. Here's 4 or 5 years," and then you're probably going to have to give them 3 or 3.5 million. So if anyone gets 3 or above, it would probably be Myers, because you would give him a 4 to a 5. Yeah. Oh, I would too. That's why I think sometimes you have to get out in front of them contracts when you have faith in your players. So 3.5, I think, is fine value for Myers.
Break out the pen, Fletcher.
Undervalued for Myers.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Well, but that's what they wanted to give Sanheim, right? He only accepted, I think it was 2 or 3 years. It was 2 years, right? At about that rate. But Sanheim played considerable more minutes in the year before. He had a larger role, right? He actually is better defensively than Myers in the current state that they're at. Not that I'm saying Myers is also a year younger, right? So he's also behind, right?
I was just going to say, he's a year ahead of him in development too.
But he also had he had a resume prior to that that's a little bit more than Myers, and the fact that he was a first round pick, he has all of that behind him. Myers does not. So can you get him for 4 years at $3.5 million? That would be great, and I would do that in a heartbeat, right? Because Sanheim is getting 5.5, 6 for his next one, and he's gonna get turned, and he's gonna deserve it.
Get the pen, Chuck. Get the pen.
All right, let's any more to say on that one? Otherwise, I want to move on here. I want to talk about the draft, and then I want to talk about free agency.
No, I'm good on that. I think both of those guys are going to be back, and like we said, you got to get value. I trust Fletcher. That's why I feel like he might get a longer contract for Sanheim, because he's been pulling these very good contracts out since he's come in. So, yeah.
Guys, I'd be honest with you. I know a lot of people say cap hell and all that, and I think you see the Niskanen retiring, how it can all change in an instant. I think the Flyers are in the best cap situation I've seen us in a ridiculous amount of time. And that's why we're not. Well, that's why Fletcher's not moving assets like picks, prospects, because you're going to need to move cap space out.
We don't need to.
Well, we're going to need to move cap space out. It's a lot easier to do that when you have a bunch of picks and a bunch of prospects. Right? It's like we're in a position where whatever it is we need to do, we can get it done and continue to compete for a cup. So I love that. All right, so let's talk about the draft. We got the draft at the time that people will be listening to this will be the day of the draft. The Flyers have the 23rd pick. They have a second-round pick. I don't remember the numbers right now. I don't want to look them up. But they don't have a third-round pick, right? Then they have the slew of the rest of them. So it's going to be a good draft for the Flyers. They didn't give up any huge assets going into the draft. There are lots of options. We talked about Askarov, right, as a player who could potentially drop down, but not just because of that, because this has been one of the weirdest seasons in NHL history. And quite frankly, I don't think any of us fully know what's going to happen this draft like they have in previous years, because, and I've talked to the draft analyst about this. If you guys didn't see the last episode, I recommend watching that. I will also have a post episode with him next week, but just to analyze the Flyers picks. But there are some blind spots this year. There were opportunities back in the day where players played and kind of moved up and down charts because of tournaments. All that's out the window. Now we got some players playing, some not, and they're saying they're not being biased. But who knows? I think there's going to be a lot of changes this year, just like we're seeing trades and buyouts and stuff like crazy already. Steel, I'm going to open this one up to you first. How are your feelings going into the draft? What do you see the Flyers targeting? And what are you excited for?
I'm excited for the whole draft itself. The fact that it's going to be in October. Let's just start with that. When do we ever have a draft in October? I'll take that all day long. And then within, 3 days, we're going to have free agency. So, okay. I think we're going to have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in the next couple days. And this is going to be probably the most interesting week, other than the fact that we handed out the Stanley Cup, 2 weeks ago or something crazy like that. Okay. I've heard some of the folks from your group, Mr. Baskow for one, stating that potentially the first round might be a trade. I've heard a trade moving up to potentially get a said player mentioned previously, Jarvis. I think with the fact that Niskanen retiring and the fact that we don't have to move salary anymore now, I think we're going to stand. I haven't said this the other day on our little Draft Central show. I think the Flyers are going to stand pat. I think we're going to pick the best available player at the 23rd pick, and we're going to go from there. Because let's face it, we have goalie depth for the first time in a long time. We have defensive depth that we kind of are a little bit lacking in now. So if a defensive player, the best defensive player that's available in the draft for the 23rd pick, we're going to take him. If that's what we need, okay. If we need a forward, okay, we'll take the best available player for the 23rd pick. I really don't see a lot of moves going to happen here unless there is something major in the works that we don't know about, unless there's some kind of trade that happens between other teams where we move JVR and or Ghost and or whatever. I think we're just going to stand pat, pick the best player available, the 23rd pick, and then the second round, and then, fourth round, and then whatever. That's what I think we're going to do. Why upset the cart? I think we were already planning on doing that to begin with because we were cap strapped. Now we have the ability to make some moves and do some things and listen to what some people have to say now. You know what I mean? So now I think that it's going to open things up now where we might not stand pat. Somebody might come calling now. Fletcher said the phones are open. He's talked to every team. Okay. What do you got? So if somebody's going to offer something for our 23rd pick and we can move up to get somebody like a Jarvis or that goalie, then okay. If not, then we move back and get more picks. I'm okay with that too. You know what I mean? Either one. If we move up and trade and get a better player in the top, 12 so picks, cool. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? If we trade off some more picks or whatever, I'm okay with that. Or if there's a deal in the works, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe. I think Flyers are going to stand pat, take the 23rd pick, and the best available player.
Fair enough. Joe, what do you think, Ben?
This is going to depend because this guy's going all over the draft board, but with Niskanen falling out, I think a guy the Flyers could like at 6'3", who played for Prince Albert if they want to get a defenseman is Goulet. He's been all over. You might have to pray a little bit for him.
Really high, too.
Yeah, you might have to pray a little bit for him to fall to 23, but there are other defensemen that could go against him because he's aggressive and has an ability to be that high minutes logger that has a great two-way game, but can also produce on offense. Similar to how, obviously, I'm not comparing him to Chris Pronger, but how we said Chris Pronger plays, where he plays very good on both ways, but just because of how good he knows the game and how smart he is, he's able to contribute on offense. That's kind of what you see when you look at this kid. Now, if you want to go right-handed, a guy that I've seen all over reading articles too, in either the top of the second round or all the way up to like 20th, is Barron, who's a right-handed defenseman who's 6'2". He played for Halifax, and he's a pretty good defenseman. The thing with him is you're not getting much offensive upside with Justin Barron. You're getting a guy that's just going to be a very good defender for you, can defend people, but he's not going to do a heck of a lot for you in the offensive zone. So is that what you want to pick with your first-round pick? That's more what you want to decide there. Obviously, Peterka's a guy that I wrote about on Flyers Nitty, so you can check that out if you want to. He's just a guy that I think is a guy that would work well for us because he's a guy that's going to take a bit, but he's already played amongst men. He's a guy that is a good guy that just drives the middle really well. And, I mean, playing in Germany already is a very good league to play in. I think he's a guy that could be helpful, gets to the dirty areas. Those are a couple names I looked at. And then Lance brought up Forster yesterday, of course, and I agreed with that. I had to go into, on our other draft show, a couple of my secondary names because Lance and I were thinking too alike on there. So
yeah, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
I had to be like, darn it, now I have to go to my secondary name again. But no, there's a lot of guys in this draft, and I think I have confidence with the combination of Fletcher and Flair that I believe whatever solution you decide to go with here, you're going to get a good asset. I mean, this draft is so deep. I even said yesterday, if you're trying to get size, there's guys that are projected in the second round all the way up to the first round in this draft, depending who you're looking for. So even picking, if you trade down in the first round, like Steele was saying, picking a Colangelo in the later first is not the most out of, or a Pitlick in the later first is not the most out of realm of possibility thing to happen, because when you look at those players, they're all over the place when it comes to the bottom of the first round to the beginning of the second round. So that's why this draft's going to be so interesting, because we didn't get to see any of the lead-in information we always get to have.
Sure. Yeah. Totally agree with that. So I agree with you guys overall, because overall we don't really know what's going to happen, right? So we're just kind of throwing out scenarios here. I think with the Niskanen thing, I don't think you can replace a guy like Niskanen through a draft, though, right? You're not that you're saying that, but like you can't even think that way, right? Because Niskanen is just like, you have, we talked about, we have other guys that we could do that. So I think for our draft, I think the stuff you're saying is accurate, though, right? We're going to be looking in that whole range of stuff. Maybe we're looking for D. It's always a possibility, right? We have really deep offense in general. I think the kind of guys the Flyers are going to look for just drafting at 23, that it's going to be a guy like Morgan Frost, in the sense that it's a guy who probably has a lot of talent that maybe isn't on everybody's radar, but maybe because the team he plays on, this is like a Liam Foudy as well. The team he plays on is immensely deep, and so in those cases it was the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, right, for Frost, and then I believe it's the London Knights for Foudy, right? And both of those teams were just stacked. And then the next year, what happened was all those guys graduated, right? So then those guys, Frost and Foudy, all of a sudden their roles were elevated. Foudy, I believe he got elevated because of injuries, so he got on the radar and got taken in the first round. Frost, nobody even really knew about him. Then the next year, boom, 100 points, right? And I think that's the type of guy you look for in that end of the first round, is who's that guy who hasn't been given an opportunity, right? And maybe that's going to be available. And if I think there's a trade, it's not going to happen at the beginning of the night, right? Like, it's going to happen, hey, this guy's dropping. Why is he dropping? Can we get, like, Jarvis is at 18. Like, why is he at 18? Like, pull the trigger. That was like Konechny. no business going that late, right, at 24. No business at all.
Agreed.
Right? But the Flyers saw it and they pounced. Same thing with, what's his name? Ratcliffe. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. You brought up Liam Foodie, which made me think of his brother again, who I said we should also pick if he drops to us in the second round. Gene Luke plays a very good game. And then Luke Tucka, Alex's brother, there's two hockey family guys that I think if they're at your pick in the second round, you should definitely go after there. That just reminded me because you brought up Foodie, and I started thinking brothers there. But if you don't go with that, go with Saskatoon's. If Tristan Robbins drops to you in the second round,
Thank you. That's who I was just going to
say.
But
he can score and he can shoot, and his hockey senses are ridiculous. And we know how much AV loves guys that are just brilliant, that you can coach in whatever way. It's like, hey, I need you to do this year. It's like, oh, okay, coach, cool, sounds perfect.
Yeah,
like he just
zero
seems like one of those guys that, very easygoing, zero maintenance. Yeah, so I would say he's a perfect guy to get. He is only 5'10", but he can play winger or center. So I think he's a good guy to get for that ability. That's the reason he's good. Exactly, size. Yeah.
But I would take him. I would take him in a second. I would definitely take him in a second.
Borek was another guy that saw come up, and that's a guy who had injuries the prior year. And Matthew Barzal is a guy who had no business being taken that late. The only reason he got taken that late was because of injuries. And that's what I mean. Like, that's what we should be shopping for. We need to be shopping for that guy that we have no risks. We can take a risk on anybody. Who cares? We have every single thing we need. So if that guy, if Eeli Tolvanen does drop to us, we're taking Tolvanen. You know, like, why not?
Why not?
Mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I do very much trust in our scouting program. And over the past few years, they've hit some home runs. So,
but here's the thing. Here is the big thing, and the professor said it earlier. We don't have a lot of tape on these guys this year. We don't have a lot of the development camps. We don't have a lot of the, the minor leagues. Right. That's what I mean.
Well, that's what I was talking about, is those shifts at the end of the year that we typically have, they're not happening now.
Right.
So that's why I said, who's our late bloomer? Right? Because that late bloomer is not getting recognized. So that's who I'm looking for. Because he hasn't had an opportunity to pick up his game. How do you find a Phil Myers, right? It took him, let's say, an extra year on top of other players to get noticed. But when he got noticed, right, Eula, same thing. Who needs an extra 6 months? I need that guy, right? Who's 6 months behind, maybe even 12 months behind on development.
Yeah, the Flyers are pretty good at picking those guys out. Sorry for cutting you off. The Flyers are good at picking those guys out. You're right. They're good at picking up those later round guys. Hoberg, who we have in our organization now, is a good later round defenseman. Absolutely. So we're pretty good at picking those guys up. There's a couple guys in the first or second round that are going to be interesting that have injury concerns but have a chance to really pan out if you do draft them. Bjork, who you brought up, is one, and the other's Lindell. Because if he can stay healthy, he has all the skill in the world as well. It's just health first when you draft a first-round pick sometimes. So you got to really be willing to take a risk to go after those guys.
But those are the guys you take in the later first rounds, right? It's either guys who have elite skill set with some hole, right, or he's undersized, right? Otherwise, they're getting taken earlier. But a lot of times, how do you end up with Claude Giroux, right? Why didn't they even know Claude Giroux's name when they walked up, right? Because he was like the second or third guy probably on their list at that point. Everybody else was taken because he was flawed, right? It's okay that they're flawed. Today, that's still a first-round pick. So it's like, do the Flyers go safe? Probably not. Not in that first round. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go safe.
Why would you? Yeah, you don't need to.
Either that, or there is also, and again, we brought this up earlier, Ghost is still on this team. If they do not plan on playing him, like I said, it is silly to hold on to him. It is a waste of. If they plan on playing him and they're like, hey, listen, we don't care. He's here to play. We're going to put him in the lineup. It was a weird playoff. It was physical, blah, blah, blah. We want to give him more time. He was in, whatever the reasons are, right? Then I'm open to that, man. I love Ghost. I'm always going to give him a second chance, right? But if they're just going to hold him as a 7, right? Like, come on. It's asinine. So you have an opportunity at the draft. You know players like him have value right now. Torrey Krug is going to get a much larger contract than he has. And again, you're talking about an offensive defenseman. Who needs an offensive defenseman? Is Boston interested? Who's up against the cap? Who needs to save money? Is Oliver Ekman-Larsson doable now because the Flyers have cap space? Could he be a real home? And maybe Ghost is the other piece that moves the other way to Arizona who's trying to save money. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas, right? But the idea here is that you can't stay with him if he's not going to play.
Right.
I would hope they keep him and resurge him, but I don't see evidence of that. If that's not the case, the draft is a great opportunity to move him for either a high-end pick, and you can combine the two, move your way up that draft to even the top 10. I think it's definitely doable with a player like Ghost and a first-round pick in combination. And to some degree, you can do something like that. And then the other option is just move for player. Get an older defenseman for Ghost, right? Like maybe not as good as Ekman-Larsson. Maybe somebody, even like a Ryan McDonough, who would be really hard to get, right? But somebody like that package for a guy who could play legit top pairing. I mean, that's another idea. What do you guys think, Joe? Go first, please.
I was going to say if we do move Ghost for something, if we're moving other defensemen and we're moving picks or moving down to get more assets or whatever, a guy that's 6'4" with speed that you don't see a lot in defense that I forgot to bring up that I wanted to pick up because he's from the Swedish league, and we know how much the Flyers scout and really pick from the Swedish league is Wallinder, because he's good at skating, can control the ice well, is going to get better and grow into his body more, which is the main thing he has to do. The Flyers really tend to look towards Sweden, not always in the early rounds, but definitely later on. So if you've got a guy with that caliber or that false team there, yeah, because they always have guys that have a lot of skill, play in one of the toughest leagues. But you get a guy with plus size at a puck's moving defenseman. You don't get that often. And he had 21 points in 25 games. I mean, that's a guy that I'm not saying he's going to be Victor Hedman, but his ceiling with when you look at his numbers is probably towards where Hedman's at as a later round where his low level is more where Ghost was at before he got injured. Well, having size though, like imagine Ghost's offensive skill level was size before he got injured.
Well, that's an elite defense.
Gosh, hello, wake up.
Well, so that's actually a really, really great point, Joe. And just looking at elite prospects here, if you just look at the differentiation of where he gets ranked, and I'm just going by a random list here, but I kind of know them. So there's a little more context behind these. But Elite Prospects has him at number 47. Future Considerations has him at 32. Craig Button has him at 20, to your point, which obviously is much higher. 57 by McKean. 14 by Central Scouting. That's EU skater, so that's pretty high. And Dauber has him at 44. And Mackenzie's got him at 27. So you see that diversity? This is what I'm talking about for this draft. Like, maybe you can get Wallinder at 23. Maybe you can get him in the second round. Who knows? But I expect a lot of these guys. This would be I actually think, realistically, this might be the type of player the Flyers do take a flyer on, right? It's a guy with a lot of potential. Maybe he hasn't proved it all right now. It's kind of varying degrees. This is a guy you take a risk on, but has a high ceiling.
Got no problems with any of those selections. And look, here's how you're going to have to look at Ghost. Either you get rid of him and get what you can, or you keep him and try to work with him. Because I agree. Why keep him on the team if he's just going to be the 7D man? Why keep him on the team if he's going to be sitting in the press box? I don't want that.
Let me ask you this. If I change the lineup to, I'm just going to throw out something random, right? If I change the lineup and we do Ghost with Myers, right? And we do Sanheim with Provorov, or even we do Myers with Provorov, we do Sanheim with Ghost, and we have one of them play the right side, and we go into next season that way. Does that make you nervous, excited, or unhappy?
I'm not nervous, I'm not excited, and I'm not unhappy. Okay.
So what are you?
Okay. I have no problems with
And then
Ghost.
Joe.
Right. I have no problems with Ghost if he's going to play, if he's going to buy in, and if he's going to be able to play the type of game that AV needs him to play. Because if he comes in there and tries to be selfish and or whatever, which we haven't seen that's what he's trying to do, but he needs to buy into the system. Okay, and I think that's what the issue was this past year, was that he wasn't really buying into the system and or whatever the case is. Whatever the case is. I'd love to keep him. It's always something to have that kind of creative offensive defenseman. However, if we can move him and get something from him, it's been a slice.
It's weird that we lose a defenseman, and like you think a few years back, moving Ghost would be like so insane, and how things have changed over the past few years.
But
right?
it's like it's one thing if you look at the way he played and then go, okay, well this happened, or okay, that happened. That wasn't really the case. Only within the last year has he had his knee surgeries. He did have a hip surgery like after his second year, but his offensive side just hit the wall and it just dropped off.
His shot.
It did. And
missed the net.
He wasn't defensively responsible. So if you're going to be that guy that's hanging it out there and doing all that offensive stuff, and then you're not responsible, but you're a D-man, the first part of your job description is defense. If you're not able to do that, then I don't care how good you are at scoring, then I'm going to make you a winger. But that's how I feel about Ghost at this point. You know what I mean? He's at that point now where, look, what are you doing? Are you on the pot or are you off? If you're on, cool, let's fly. If not, see ya. Been a slice.
Joe, what do you think, Joe?
I feel like Ghost is going to be interesting because I think he would do best now that he's had both of his knees cleaned out. It seems like he was moving a bit faster, to be with the veteran type guy we were kind of talking about earlier, or just a defensive, more minded player, where Myers is more of a hybrid still. So Myers would have to kind of learn more to just hang back if he's playing with Ghost. Where if you did put him with someone like Hag, would still double up lefties, but Hag's going to know, well, I'm just going to stay the heck back because I know Ghost is going to try to do his thing. And Braun would do the same. You would just have to hope Ghost, you just need to have Ghost's legs back to be able to pair him with Braun or Hag, because if he's moving like he did before the surgeries, that's not a good pairing, because that's going to be a little bit too slow to go up against some of these other teams. But if Ghost is moving like we used to see him move, you can definitely put those guys together, or with a free agent. If we sign a veteran like we alluded to earlier, you could pair him with Ghost, especially if he's a more defensively inclined, which I would presume the Flyers would probably be looking for if they now have to think they're going to keep Ghost in the lineup, because they're going to want guys that they know they can pair with their young, developing, either hybrid two-way defenseman or Ghost, who's a offensive-minded. Plus, in my opinion, you're going to want another veteran for Zamula too. When you have more veterans around, it just helps the young guys, and now you really just have Braun because of Niska's retirement. So
technically, it's actually Ghost. Ghost is the other veteran.
Yeah, he is.
Technically, in terms of team, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's been drafted by us. Yeah, okay.
Like on our team, yeah. But I've had veteran presence as a whole, but it's going to be interesting what we do. I would put another wild card guy to put with Ghost if he's in is Friedman, though, just because of what I said earlier. He keeps the game simple. He can also skate quick.
I think they would play well together. It's just a size issue, I think.
That's what I was going to say. That's the issue. But Friedman is a guy that can get back. So if Ghost makes some of those mistakes early on while trying to get back in the groove of things, Friedman also has some good skating ability to be able to kind of skate back there. Where Ghost, has a skating ability, he just doesn't always have the best defensive mechanics. So he can try to get back there, and then Friedman usually breaks up the plays similar to Niskanen. That's why I think he really learned a lot from Niskanen, because when you look at his game, he tends to try to do those lay down dive plays with the stick check when he's trying to get back on plays. So that's why I think that would be a good pairing. The biggest concern, like you said, is just size. You would have to sacrifice size for that pairing. But
yeah. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think the one thing that's clear from going back and forth is that we don't feel like the D is finalized right now. So that's why you feel like there's a move coming here. With Niskanen not here, everything was like, okay, if we don't make a move, this D is good. We're good. But now you're kind of like, all right, we have a gap. So that needs to be filled in some kind of way. If they don't make any moves, I think it might be a simple free agent guy. It could be possible. But I think that would be a little disappointing after the season we had. I would love to see them, again, do it right with Ghost. But I just haven't seen that yet.
Right.
So my assumption is that he is being shopped at this point. If he doesn't move, I would personally be excited. I look at his statistics. I mean, again, in 2017-18, in 78 games, he had 13 goals, 52 assists, and he was a plus 10. You show me one Flyers defenseman that has done that in the modern era. One.
Can't.
So that's where I look at these numbers. And then in 2015-16, 17 goals, 29 assists in 64 games, right?
Okay.
Again, these are rare skill sets. If we get him back, it's worth it. If they're not going to bother, it's not worth it. So that's where I say, I was like, if we don't want to play that way, then let's move him. And I'm leaning towards that happening. So we could be looking at in my opinion, a more veteran defender coming in for Ghost. Probably on a larger cap hit, and maybe somebody that we're kind of excited about that we didn't think we could get, because there's a lot of teams out there trying to, kind of shed salary, and I don't think this is possible at all in any way. But my dream scenario, and a lot of people probably would make fun of this, is like, if I could get Drew Doughty out of right now at the end of his career, I would try. He's got a humongous cap hit. But you add Drew Doughty to Ivan Provorov, Sanheim, and Myers, and I would put that top four against any team in the National Hockey League. And if I was going for a big move, maybe that's the type of move. Because I have York and Zamula. I have them still. And I think Cam York is a special player. So we're free to make moves if we really need to.
Yeah. And now we have some space.
Yeah.
Now
I
we have
expect
some
simpler
space.
plays, though. Yeah, I expect much simpler stuff than a Drew Doughty. But I just like fantasize about stuff like that. You could go balls to the wall. Pietrangelo, can you convince him to come here now? Move out cap space.
Krug. Yeah.
We talked about Krug earlier. Yeah.
My thing with Krug is like, if you're gonna bring Krug in, like just keep Ghost. Like, why lock up Krug for 7 years? Like, just keep Ghost and see if you can turn him back, because you're gonna get a very similar skill set. And I'm like, I don't know if it's worth the huge contract that Krug's going to get, but I mean,
you could also bring in just as a big body guy, because we know he wants to keep playing, and I don't think it's been set in stone if Boston. I don't think Boston might retain him. If you want to just get Chara as a 1-year veteran, that's fairly easy.
I would sign him today. First thing, heartbeat. He's 43 years old, 44.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat, I would sign him for this team. He's exactly what we need, even at that old age. That's what we need. We need a guy who can be our Chris Pronger. The guy Niskanen did it for us.
Yeah.
Can we need another guy who's gonna walk into that room and be like, I've won a cup, or I've been awesome for years, and I've got swagger. You can lean on me. And guess what? Guess what? Provorov and Sanheim. If you guys fuck up. Excuse me. If you guys screw up, I'm there for you. Like, that's what we need. We need that guy. I wish Ghost was that guy, but he's not. I wish Braun was that guy, but he's probably not. We need that guy to rely on a veteran presence. I think the Flyers have to go get it.
Yeah. I agree.
You could also, 100%. Yeah. One of the most interesting stories to follow, since nobody really knows because no one's been following stuff as closely this year, is if a certain somebody still wants to play hockey or not.
Byfuglien?
And that is Dustin Byfuglien. Yeah.
Everything
you're
I
get him
out.
Yeah.
That's what I've read too, yeah.
We'll see, but
I would love that.
Another guy that you could potentially look at for 1 year or 2 years, maybe, because he's right-handed, has offensive skill. If you want to go after Barre because he's younger, can move the puck, you're just going to have to be willing to pay a little bit there because he ain't going to be
again,
cheap.
Why would you do that if you have Ghost? That's what I mean. Like Tyson Barrie's career is no more impressive than Ghost's career.
Yeah,
it is the same problems. It's like
it would be more.
We
if
already
you
have Ghost. We don't.
up.
Why would we? Yeah,
Yeah.
we might as well just keep Ghost and go with that. Yeah.
Go ahead,
be
Joe.
Or if you want to switch up the defense, because like we said, it's a lot easier when you read drafts and stuff. You see when you look at a lot of the defensemen and a lot of the top defensemen in the league, you can't find the best of the best anymore, except for Pietrangelo and a couple now McCarthy that are all right-handed. There tends to be more lefties, so I'm just saying if you want to switch the feel of the defense around, that's what it would more be. But I do feel if we get rid of Ghost, we're going to get a more defensive-minded person.
Right.
And if you're just getting someone for experience, you could go out and get the graybeard Andy Green, who had a pretty good playoff series there. So, go out and get the graybeard.
He would be a nice number 6 or 7. I mean, just a guy to have there, but I think for a regular season, I don't think the Flyers are going to think that old, unless it's a Zdeno Chara, a Joe Thornton, like a guy who brings a name that he walks into that locker room and everybody who grew up watching him is like, oh, like it literally has to be that kind of impact guy.
Yeah,
and maybe Andy Green, though, to your credit, Andy Green from a personality standpoint and a locker room impact, I mean, without a doubt. He wasn't a captain for the Devils for all those years for no reason. Exactly. Right? Lamoriello didn't bring him over. He didn't have a great playoff for no reason. So I'm not trying to take away. But, I think at this point, for a regular season thing, we're going to look like for a guy who can play more. But, all right, so we've done quite a long one here. Actually, we're almost at an hour and a half, so we're kind of over what we normally do. But it's all good. It's an exciting week. A lot of stuff to talk, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about in the weeks ahead. You guys do your own podcast as well, and obviously you have content and videos coming up everywhere. Steel, why don't you start off? Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can track you, follow you outside of this podcast, where they can listen to your stuff.
First of all, thank you very much for having me on here, man. It has been a complete honor and a privilege to be here with you guys. You guys are the standard. I look to you guys as the professionals. You guys are the pros in the know.
Thanks,
for
buddy.
sure. So, look, it's been a real absolute pleasure. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52, and also come to the website, www.steelflyers.com, where you can get all of the great links to the Flyers Nitty Gritty site, all the great links to you, Jamie, and all your team, and all the great stuff. And you can also find all of Joe's stuff and everybody else's. So come to SteelFlyers.com. Thank you very much, man. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Steel. Thanks for coming, buddy. Joe, tell me where they can find you.
Again, like Steel said, a lot of the links are on Steel Flyers, then OT Heroics and Pub Sports on top of Flyers Nitty Gritty is stuff I write for, and JJ Borek, Borek, not like John Borek spelled it, 26, is my Twitter handle. Unfortunately, though, just to give overall NHL news, I just got an update on my phone. McDavid is in quarantine after experiencing mild symptoms and testing positive for the virus.
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, right.
But
prayers
he obviously
him.
wasn't in the bubble, so yeah, prayers for him.
Prayers for
him. Just joking around.
Very healthy young dude that literally has the work ethic of basically Crosby and Ovechkin times put together. So without drinking a Coke during a hockey game, or whatever soda Ovechkin drinks. So, but hopefully he can recover and get well. But that was sad to see. But kudos to the NHL also was a final point I had to go off of that, to having no positive tests during the entire playoffs and just pulling off a great playoffs and having a very well put together playoffs. I think this is a year, if we did allow fans in like baseball's probably going to do for the championships, Gary wouldn't have got booed. I think this is the first time he wouldn't have got booed.
I think that's actually really funny and probably true.
Yep.
And I would love it if they did outdoor games this year, and I think that'd be a great way to maybe open the season. I don't think they mentioned anything like that, but to open the season on an outdoor game, maybe with 50% capacity or something, the way kind of football is doing, make a whole spectacle out of coming back. And I know they want to start having some people in the stands, so maybe it's a way to make a statement. But we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next few months. There's a lot of news left to come. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like I said, there will be more content. Obviously, follow Steel, follow Joe. They obviously contribute to us, and they're part of our community. So definitely give them a follow on Twitter, on Facebook, on anything that they do. And you'll be tightly entwined in all of Flyers opinions and news. And thank you so much for listening. I will have Steve Corianos. Woo, almost said it wrong. Steve Corianos on the podcast again next week.
There you go.
He does have an episode coming up about the Flyers. Should be out this week. It's on his podcast. That's at the Draft Analyst. Just nice to hear outside opinions, and I'll have him back to kind of go over the other players. And then Joe, maybe we'll have you back on to talk about more draft stuff in the future when we have Jamie back on here as well. And Steele, obviously, we'll have you back on near future as well. But thank you again, everybody, for listening. Keep following, like, subscribe. It helps us a ton. Check out the team store. Follow me at Y Wallach on everything. And remember to always stay gritty.